This is information.
Hello and welcome to Web Design Documentation. In the last video, we looked at an overview of web design workflow. Up next, we'll take a closer look at some early stage planning documents that can help guide your design. First, let's talk about user flow. For most websites, we want users to be able to complete some kind of task. This task could be anything, like booking a flight, or buying stuff online, or entering an email address to subscribe to a newsletter. Whatever wants or needs the users have, whatever problem they want solved, we want to help this process along. We can design our websites so that users can easily flow from one step to the next. We can help ourselves do this by making a user flow diagram. Here is a basic user flow diagram. Step 1, finds your site in a Google search. Step 2, lands on your homepage. Step 3, joins email list. That first step could happen in a lot of different ways, like directly going to your site without Googling it, or clicking on a link from a blog post or a tweet, or from an email. In that second step, a user may not even land on the homepage, but some other page on your site. The important thing is that users can still easily find whatever they needed. With a good flow already planned and executed by you, excellent designer, it won't matter that the user didn't land on the homepage. If there is a well-written and well-placed call to action where the user landed, then you have a better chance that you get to step 3 in success.
Success.
Success. Success.
Here are some other examples of user flow diagrams. Let's move on to the sitemap. The term sitemap can refer to 3 different things. The first is a file written in XML, a language similar to HTML that tells the search engine what pages are in the site, how they're related, and how often they're updated. We'll leave this alone and concentrate on the other 2. An HTML sitemap is a list of pages on a website. In the early days of the web, these sitemaps were standard for any website. Now that search engines are much more powerful, and we've had a couple decades to think about how web navigation should work, you don't see them as much. Some large websites, like FedEx or NewYorkTimes.com, still have them, and you can find them in the footer of the page. And we'll leave this here. In terms of web design, the sitemap is an organizational chart of what pages and subpages your website will have. If you remember back to the first steps in the web design workflow, once you have the content from your client, now is the time to organize how this content will be presented for your site. There are some content mapping exercises you can do before your initial sitemap, but we'll focus on the actual sitemap in this video. Here's an example from webtoots.com. Now that we have a user flow diagram and a sitemap, we can move to the next piece of important documentation, the wireframe. The wireframe is the first time we can start picturing how the website will actually look and what content will go where. Wireframes can be rough and low fidelity, or as detailed and high fidelity as your workflow and client needs dictate. This is a common client buy-in point. If you have the basic structure and layout, you can see client approval and save yourself big revisions later. Common wireframing tools out there include OmniGraffle, Balsamiq, even Adobe Illustrator. The wireframing stage is also a good point to start developing how interaction will be like on the website. For example, if you have an image slider on your homepage, you can show common cues for a slider, like the little dots at the bottom that show which slide you're on, or left and right arrows. Something also customary when explaining interaction on a wireframe: dots and a key explaining how this site is interactive. Most wireframes don't have any styling to it, so this is where the next piece of documentation can come in: the mood board or visual lexicon. This is where fonts, colors, representative images, type lockups, and more come in and start to flesh out the visual style of the site. The mood board is another client buy-in point, and sometimes the most important one until you get to the actual testing of the site. Many clients want to make sure the look and feel is appropriate and on brand. Mood boards aren't always required, but they can be very useful for guiding the rest of the design of the site. Sometimes at the same time, User Interface Kit is also included at this stage. This is a collection of how buttons, menus, navigation, and the like will look. Your next video for class